Chapter 8. And then what happened? Peter asked. Constance rubbed her forehead. It was her way of showing her lack of understanding. The most amazing thing, she said. I expected him to run away, or stab me, but he threw the knife to one side, and punched you on your jaw, Peter said. It was such a blow, Constance said. Luckily, my jaw isn't broken. You don't seem any worse for your adventure, Peter Tembisa continued. But this is a warning from now on. Yes? Constance asked. She was sitting comfortably in bed, propped up on 3 pillows. Her jaw was discolored, because of the thief's blow, and she felt some pain, but that was all. From now on, you don't go anywhere unless there's someone with you. Constance started to laugh but had to stop because of the pain. I'm a big girl now, Peter. I don't need a babysitter wherever I go. But what if this happens again? It will be bad for you, Constance. And I'll feel guilty too. Why should it happen again? Constance said. I was unlucky, that's all. There are many thieves in this city, and I happened to meet one. It could have been much worse. Peter Tembisa looked serious. He thought for a while. While he was thinking, he rubbed his chin. Take a week off work, he said at last. And if you're still not well enough, take a second week. But I have work to do, Constance told him. Then someone else can do it for you. What are you doing at the moment that's so important it can't wait? He asked. Constance smiled a little, the first time she had tried to smile in several hours. You don't smile too often when your jaw feels swollen and you are in pain. I've got to find Daniel Clark, she said. That can wait, Peter replied. No, it can't. Why not? Sometimes it's many months after a death before the will is finally settled. But I must find him to tell him of his mother's death, Constance answered. If he's around, if he's alive, he will want to attend the funeral. Yes, that's true, Peter admitted. But I can always find someone else to. No. Constance interrupted firmly. No, this is my case. I started it. Want to finish it. If you say so, Peter agreed. I do say so. Constance repeated, and again she tried to smile. You're a very determined young woman. Yes, I am determined to find Daniel Clark, if at all possible. I hope you're successful, Peter said. Not because of concluding the business of the will, but because. Well, after this, you deserve a little bit of luck. If I find him, it won't be because of luck, Constance said. It will be the result of hard work. A bit of detective work, in a way. Not luck. Peter Tembisa sighed. He was not used to people arguing with him or disagreeing with him. Constance seemed to do nothing else. When she finally had her own law firm, she would probably, he thought, be a tough and determined employer. She had the qualities necessary to be successful in court and in business. I spoke to the doctor before coming to your room, Peter said. He told me you can go home in about 2 days. As soon as Peter Tembisa had learned what had happened, he had arranged for Constance to be removed from a public ward and given her own private room. Tembisa and associates would pay 2 clays or so. I'm getting out of here tomorrow morning, Constance said. The doctor may not agree. Then the doctor will have to abjure, Constance replied. He can't keep me here against my will. You mean? You'll discharge yourself from hospital? Sure, she said. Why not? A heavy blow can have after effects, Peter explained. Look, Peter, I was admitted yesterday evening after Jacob and Bokiti found me. I've been here all day. If there were going to be any ill effects, they'd have happened by now. Don't you think so? Peter Tembisa stood up. It was time for him to leave. It was well past the time when he usually arrived home for his evening meal and, because he often worked late in the office, he ate much later than most people in the city. For someone who has been hit hard on the jaw, you still manage to talk a lot, Constance. Sure. I'm a lawyer, Constance said. The day had been a busy one for Constance. There were X-ray photographs to take of her jaw. The doctor also suggested taking pictures of the bones of her skull, just in case. As soon as the photographs were ready, the doctor examined them and informed Constance that she had no broken bones, but there was extensive bruising. She complained of the pain in her face and the doctor gave her a pain-killing injection. This relieved the pain, allowing her to sleep for a few hours. On waking up, she found two people sitting at the side of her bed. Both had worried looks on their faces. They were Jacob and Bokiti. Although it was possible for Constance to see from their faces that they were worried, neither asked her questions, however. Not questions about the thief, which is only about her health. Whether or not she was in pain. Certainly they did not ask why it was that Constance had been in the house at Hillside when the burglar broke in. Nor did they mention a certain metal box under Mrs. Clark's bed with the lock broken off. Constance asked them to inform her employer where she was. They promised to do so. Jacob asked if Constance had relatives he should inform. Constance said she had relatives, back in the village, but they must not be contacted. This was not a serious matter. Jacob replied that he believed it was very serious, but he would do as Constance said. Later, after Jacob and Bokiti left, Constance was able to fall asleep for about an hour. Then, later, there was a stream of visitors. First, there was Alice McCond, bringing flowers on behalf of all the staff of Tembisa and Associates. There was a card, too, signed by Peter Tembisa, Mrs. Maribi, and all at the office. After Alice had left, Constance was moved to a private ward. Alice had brought a letter, signed by Peter Tembisa, saying the firm would pay the costs. After this, GD arrived. He brought food and soft drinks for Constance. He also brought some sweets, made of toffee. Constance thanked him. It would be some days before she was able to chew the toffee, but she did not say this to GD. About 6 o'clock, Mrs. Maribi arrived. She was calling, she said, on her way home. She regretted that she had not been able to leave the office earlier, but there was much work to do. Constance assured her that she quite understood. By the time that Peter came, 2 hours later, Constance was feeling tired. She decided that she would stay in the hospital that night and try to sleep well and then leave early the following morning. After Peter went, Constance sighed with pleasure. It was good to know that people cared about her. A nurse came to the room. Constance told her that she would like a cool soft drink. After that, she would go to sleep. The nurse asked her if she was in any pain. Constance said that she felt fine. If she felt pain later, she would ask for something to help her to sleep. It was while Constance was drinking her lemonade that she had time to think about the events of the previous evening. There were a number of things that worried her. She had said nothing to Peter, or to Mrs. Maribi for that matter. And she had certainly not mentioned her suspicions to Alice McCond, partly because it was not Alice's business, partly because Alice was something of a gossip. She would repeat anything she heard and add details of her own as well. Such people cannot be trusted. There was another reason. Constance was suspicious. Something was wrong. She had a feeling that the man who punched her on the jaw, the thief who carried a knife, was not an ordinary thief who had chosen that house because there seemed to be nobody there at the time. Yet, although she felt unsure, there was nothing she could point to and say it was not right. She had no real evidence. Being a trained lawyer, Constance knew that it was unwise to make a case for anything on suspicions alone. Hard evidence is always required now. However, in the warmth and comfort of that hospital room, Constance felt at ease. Those doubts remained in her mind, but they were not at the front of her thoughts. The kindness of friends and colleagues from the office was more important at this time than doubts about the man who had attacked her. At this moment, Constance lacked only one thing: a book to read, or a newspaper, perhaps. She always liked to read for some time before falling asleep. It was something she did when at home, either in the village or in her apartment here in the city. She had always enjoyed reading books, even before becoming a student. During her years at secondary school, and later at the university, at the end of a long and busy day reading her textbooks, she enjoyed a good novel. She liked all kinds of stories, romances, mysteries, detective stories, so long as they were written well and were exciting. If she were to stay in hospital any longer, she would have asked CJD or Alice to bring some of her books. However, she was sure that she'd be well enough to leave in the morning. In a way, Peter Tembisa was right, Constance thought. There was no hurry to find Daniel Clark. La had not bothered to find his mother in more than 20 years, so why should he wish to attend her funeral? What kind of son was it, she asked, who could be separated from his parents for many years and not seem to care? At about 9:30, just as she was drifting off to sleep, the door of the room opened. First there was a gentle knock on the door, and then it was opened. Constance opened her eyes. It was Bokiti with Jacob. Greetings were exchanged. Bokiti said, "We took a taxi." She spoke shyly, as if it was a waste of money. "You were beaten very badly," Jacob said. "Not really beaten," Constance answered. "But he hit me very hard." She rubbed her chin. "Right here." She managed to smile a little. But when the blow had struck her, it had been like an explosion of light and stars in front of her face. "It was a terrible thing," Bokiti said. "There was blood pouring from your mouth." "But no teeth broken," Constance said. "Luckily for me, no teeth broken." "When we found you," Jacob said, "when we found you lying on the floor, we were very worried." "I gave you water," Bokiti said, "and we called the ambulance." Jacob added, "You were very kind," Constance replied. "And I'm very grateful." "There is something else," Bokiti said. She had a worried look on her face. "Yes. That thief. He did not strike you and then run away," Bokiti said. "I know," Constance agreed. "I heard him moving about the house. But I couldn't do anything, because of the pain." "There is a box," Bokiti said. "A box." Constance tried to sound surprised, but she had no doubt which box was meant. "Mrs. Clark keeps it under her bed." Bokiti spoke of her employer as if she were alive. She had not yet started to use the past tense. A box under her bed? Constance repeated. "The thief. He broke the lock. Mrs. Clark always uses the hack. He forced it open. And there were papers and photographs in that box. Some of these the thief tore up into small pieces." "Why should he have done that?" Constance said, surprised. "And others he took away with him." "How strange, Constance. Lie, steal them all? Or tear everything up?" "The things he stole," Bokiti replied. "He took all the photographs. All the photographs of Mrs. Clark." By this time Constance's mind was alert. She was thinking fast. Now there was no danger she would be accused of breaking open the lock on that metal box. The thief could take the blame for that. But why should a thief enter a house and steal photographs? "Is anything else missing?" Constance asked. "We have checked very carefully," Bokiti replied. "Both Jacob and we cannot find anything missing. Even some money was left there." Constance sighed and Bokiti did the same. "This was very strange indeed. We do not know the reason for this," Bokiti said. "We talked about it. Jacob said we must talk to you. He said that you would know what to do." "That's very kind of you both," Constance replied, but I sleep tonight, Bokiti interrupted. Tomorrow, you will know what to do. Jacob and I, we both have faith in you, Miss Majolo.